Do EVs last as long as gas cars? A new study looked at nearly 30 million cars, and they say the answer is yes. UK researchers wanted to look at the roadworthiness of electric vehicles versus gas and diesel. Enter the UK Ministry of Transport. Turns out in the UK, you have to take your car in for a roadworthiness test every year once it hits 3 years. So researchers were able to see the life story of 29.8 million unique vehicles. When a vehicle stopped showing up for these tests after 18 months, they deemed them dead for all intents and purposes. All of this data shows that the median lifespan for EVs is about 18.4 years. That's a full year and a half more than diesel cars and only slightly less than gasoline ones. But even with similar lifespans, the EVs had higher mileage, about 13,000 kilometers more than the gasoline ones. Their conclusion? The longevity of EVs does rival gas and diesel. But wait, I know what some of you are thinking. What about the lifespan of the batteries themselves? Because right now the standard warranty for EV batteries is only 8 years. Here's the thing. Recent studies testing those batteries in laboratories have found they last much longer, still usable even after 20 years. It's just been hard to get the data about the life cycle of the battery in the car until now. We asked the study authors if they accounted for battery replacement. They said the focus was overall longevity of the car, but to truly see how long an EV could live for, affordable and secondhand batteries will need to be a big part of the future. Ultimately, there's a lot to consider when comparing EVs to gas and diesel. For a lot of Canadians, it comes down to costs, access to charging sites, and range, a trend cities are picking up on.
And concerns around range anxiety is probably sort of the number one concern we see from folks in the public that are considering an electric vehicle and wanting to make sure it will work for their day-to-day and month-to-month and year-to-year needs.
We also know that building electric cars produces more CO2 than conventional ones because they rely so much on mining. But that's why a study on longevity is such an important part of the EV big picture. If EVs last long enough, despite the extra cost of mining, they can still be a net positive for the environment.
It was pretty encouraging to me. I think if you go back, was it 2007? Was there sort of their first cohort of vehicles? If you bought an EV then, according to that data, you might have had a less total kilometers and less lifespan out of that vehicle, which is not what we want. But the newer ones, 2017, 2018, that they've looked at, if you bought one of those electric vehicles, good chance it'll last longer than a comparable combustion engine vehicle, and that you'll be able to drive it further.
Not to mention what this means for secondhand EVs. Now, maybe a 5 or 10-year-old EV has a whole life ahead of it, and down the road, a 20-year-old one is giving my Echo a run for its money. Bottom line, any car, gas or electric, that isn't ending up in the junkyard after 15 years, that's a good thing.